we're breaking down peak centralization. Okay. So you're going to have supply chains shortened. We can't rely on China or India to produce our pharmaceuticals for us. Okay. We can't rely on Taiwan to produce our electronics for us, and on it goes. So we're going to have to start going back to supply chains that are shorter. Now, from a personal standpoint, when you guys think ahead, you need to sit down as a family and decide, one of the most dense products to own in your home that's going to provide you, carbohydrates to keep alive. Forget about your keto diet. You're not going to get protein.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today with me, Bob Kudla, tradelikeagenius.com. So much has moved forward with pricing in terms of wheat. The crops are now coming in. It's the farmers telling us in the fields what's being lost and not coming anywhere remotely close to what the USDA government forecasts. See, now we're starting, the oil and the water are separating here. Government rosy forecast to keep markets stabilized versus what the farmers are saying, whoa, we got a huge problem. Durum wheat, for example, is only 50% of what it was last year, and globally, there's not going to be enough to supply. So that would entail shortages or extreme price rises, which we're seeing. And a lot of people are caught off guard. We should have been warned. I've been warning about this. Bob's been talking about it forever. We're kind of blue in the face, yapping, price rises, increases, shortages, unavailability, your quality of life. You're not in, and it's here now. It's obviously here. So what can we see moving forward? A little bit of timeline. The availability is there right now, but the prices are becoming unaffordable. And we see another pipeline being closed that runs across the Great Lakes. It's just, how much are we being pinched on purpose? Because another closure of a pipeline, and they're talking about releasing part of the strategic oil reserves. Really, we used to export oil a couple years ago. Literally 2 years ago, we were exporting energy resources. Now we need to import, and we're going into shortages, driving gas to $4 or $5 a gallon. Your foods, John Deere's still on strike. A lot of things to plant aren't there. And then the fertilizers are not forthcoming next year. So irregardless, if we had a perfect weather year and everything was running succinctly and everything was just functioning, a cherry on top of perfection, without the fertilizers, we would be getting gargantuan crop reductions anyway. But now add on today's world on top of fertilizer shortages and unavailability, non-delivery, even the base ingredients coming out of China, they turned off the tap instantly on that. So enjoy your Thanksgiving meals, celebrate with your family that you have abundance and food at your fingertips and on your plates, because next year it's going to get real expensive or unavailable. So Bob's here. Again, we always go around for the month, talk about the changes. This is all since just last month since we talked. All this is really now forward and front on the table. So, Bob, I appreciate you joining me. I know it was a long-winded intro there, but.
Yeah, Dave, hey, thanks for having me. I would expect nothing less than a opening monologue of that magnitude. So, as you know, Dave and I are talking, we're having macro conversations that then feed our interest in certain sectors of the market. But when things get real, people are they're not going to care what the price of Tesla is, because you're not going to be able to afford a Tesla. You're going to be really interested in what the price of wheat is, or the price of Bitcoin, or the price of gold, because that's the only way in which you're going to be able to leverage your wealth to be able to afford things into the future.
Or the price of a Parendev magnetic motor. It moved from that, what Bitcoin was, to the proof of work, to the proof of stake, and now it's moving to work proof of time. So as we, just move out into the ecosystem here, something that's so much more energy efficient, faster than anything out there. What is it? So you got to think about the automobiles from the early 1900s. Well, sorry, electric cars were first in the 1880s. And then they were taken away, replaced by diesel motors. There was not really gasoline at that time. Diesel was the first motors and the only motors. And then suddenly there's this byproduct called gasoline, and an engine was invented to burn that, combustion. But when you're talking about this fuels thing here, all you need is an anode and a cathode, and you can start recombining those elements. If you pull some carbon dioxide out of the air, crack that hydrogen and oxygen, use an electric current, you can combine that into other burnable fuel sources. So if you have the electricity, which is required to get the electric charge into, do the alchemy of chemical mixing, right back using Tesla technologies again. It's really interesting how we're going this full circle where they're pulling gases out of the air, reconstituting them with the electrical charge, breaking the ions apart, reassembling them, and then there's a liquid that comes out the backside there that's motor fuels or other types of combustibles that can be used to then generate power. I find it fascinating. Do we skip 100 years of invention here, or were things kept off the shelf, you know, as you mentioned there? And then the control of the food. I've been saying this with the whole grand solar minimum thing. At some point, there's going to have to be a presence in the food distribution and food point sale arena to control the masses that are going to be super angry, that won't pay anymore. They'll just start busting shop windows to get in for the food. So how many repeats in history do we see again when the British military used to accompany every grain shipment from the fields into the cities? You know, at what point do we roll over here? You know, you seem as said, it's almost as if everything's planned with the fiat collapse to bring us into a new monetary system. When knowing that monetary is only one, you know, subset of the tripod here. You know, we got the government itself, and then we got the citizens and the ever rising prices, inflation, and food inavailability or lack thereof that will then change the mind of people and how angry they'll get. You're going to need to control the food from that field again to the factories or from wherever it is to the supermarkets, and then control the supermarkets themselves, because when people get in there, you know, they're going to be unruly when they get there. So take it back 2008, quick story. Down in Thailand, people were coming in the middle of the night and then just harvesting entire fields of rice that were ready to be harvested. So they ended up stationing military out in all the rice growing regions because these little harvest bandits were coming in the evenings and grabbing what would have grown through the year. So, you know, seeing all these different stack ups in history, knowing these changes that are moving into this incredibly fast energy. So crypto is just one part of it. And you got to think that, you know, the carbon market's going to be another pillar of the new asset class. They're going to try to revalue the earth itself into an asset class. So that's why there'll be a lot of areas where there will be no human habitation. That'll be set off as an asset valued at this much based on what it is for an eco habitat. You got the new, I don't even know if it'll be some sort of currency tagged to gold that'll have value to it. And then you start to add all this up, like they're making asset classes out of nothing. And where's the energy mix in this thing as a base for it all? Oh, you're going to have to be rationed on the energy. You're going to have to get your personal carbon allocation credits to then purchase something that's made using energy. And it's just, you know, things are going to move faster. So if you come to this proof of time concept for, you know, a few of these new protocols coming in, especially Solana and Chia, you can see the world where it's moving. And now it's just about trying to catch up and grab on the coattails of Superman as it's going that direction. But the traditional market shall exist as well. So how do you get that interplay between what the future is unfolding right now and then still keep one foot into the world that's still operating as it is as we're going through the transition? Because I find it the most fascinating. We're in that movement into a new system, and there's almost two sets of rules for the new and the old blending together right now.
Yeah, they'll price the old with the new. So instead of pricing things in dollars, they'll start pricing it in Bitcoin or whatever the government's competitive version is going to be of the dollar. But look, you know, you're right. I think there's actually some good that's going to come from this, because we're breaking down peak centralization. Okay, so you're going to have supply chains shortened. You know, we can't rely on China or India to produce our pharmaceuticals for us. Okay, you know, we can't rely on Taiwan to produce our electronics for us, and on it goes. So we're going to have to start going back to supply chains that are shorter. Now, from a personal standpoint, you know, when you guys think ahead, you know, you need to sit down as a family and decide, you know, one of the most dense products to own in your home that's going to provide you, you know, carbohydrates to keep alive. Forget about your keto diet. You're not going to get protein. Is that you're going to, you know, you want rice. Okay. And, you know, you know, factor in, you know, 2 cups of dry rice per family for every time you want to eat it. Okay, and then factor out how many pounds you need, and rice will hold. So what you need to do is get rice and put it away. You want to have some bread stuff, but the other thing too, you can grow this in your home, is I have out in my backyard, I have 3 plots of potatoes. Now I'm blessed. I live in Southern California. I already harvested a crop in July. I got a crop coming out of the ground here whenever I decide to kill the plant because it's still producing. And I got 2 more coming up right now that'll start producing in about 3 months. So potatoes are very, very dense in terms of the space it requires to produce enough to eat. And you can literally leave 1 or 2 of the potatoes that you harvest back in the ground, which I did, and they're bringing up new crop. So so you got to think about that. If you're out there listening and you want a business that's going to be able to be successful going forward, think really hard about producing greenhouse grown crops in an area that that's going to suffer from supply chain issues. Okay, and then going back to your other comment regarding the fracking and the cracking of these materials, is that we're also been buying platinum companies. Okay, and then rhodium is also, there's one of the stocks that we watch is a platinum rhodium company. Okay, and so you're going to see platinum prices increase exponentially in the hydrogen economy. And I think what we're going to see in the United States, I think we're going to see a bifurcation. We're going to see where solar energy is abundant. We're going to see the electric economy, and where you can't produce solar and wind, which is the Northeast, and you can't get the hydro out of Quebec, you're going to probably see more nuke plants, and you're going to see more of a hydrogen economy. Look, you can't put charging stations in enough places. Okay. And I don't think you can produce enough batteries. The toxic nature of the current batteries is going to become prohibited. And so I think you're going to see a push back towards hydrogen. Or we're going to see is one of the things that you didn't talk about, Dave, was we have basically these hybrid systems. So we went from gasoline to what's called electric capture, right? And then we went electric gas hybrid. I think we're going to see hybrid cars. It could be battery gas and hydrogen. There's going to be some pretty creative engineering, going on right now. And I think look at what's happening with the electric bicycle. I think you'll see that play out in areas that it will be allowed. Like areas like Portland, it's already a bike friendly place. Where I live in Southern California, everybody and their brother has electric bike. So instead of hopping in the car, running up a mile to the grocery store, you just hop on your electric bike and you can serve the same purpose, and you can charge some of it by just pedaling too. So I think you're going to see some really interesting things happen when push comes to shove. But the sad thing about the whole thing is it never had to be. Governments just can't help themselves. They want to be in charge. They want to tell you how to live your life. And if we would have went all nuke, 30, 40 years ago, we'd be sitting at baseline 5-6 cents electric kilowatt, and we'd be living in the land of abundance. But now we're going to be living in a land of scarcity, because these people, they're religious in their views. They're not, practical in their views, and for whatever reason, they want to control us through renewables when nuclear is the way to go. And so, and when people don't look, people wonder, I've been in the solar business personally, I was in it for 14 years. I owned a solar energy installation company. So I know from where I speak, the installations that I've done in 2006 are coming up an end of life in 5 years. So, and people are not going to have the money, and they're not plug and play. So the panels I have on my roof, when I have to replace mine, I can't replace them with like kind. They won't fit. So people have to tear their roofs off to be able to put these back on. And when I mean tear the roof off, I mean you're going to have to pull tiles out here in Southern California. At the same time, you're going to have to repaper. So instead of it being maybe a $10,000 replacement, you're looking at a $20,000 replacement plus. And so that's not factored into people's thinking. And even in the industrial level out there in the desert where they're pumping these things, same problem. You know, these solar panels lose their efficacy and their efficiency every year. They basically drop 1% a year. So they just kind of, they Alzheimer right off. And after 20 years, they have a steeper decline. So and look at windmills are even worse. What, you know, I mean, like 5 to 7 years, those blades are getting destroyed, you know, and so, you know, they're going to have to come to Jesus and go to nuclear, and if Jesus will have them.
Yeah, because this whole everybody was yipping about e-waste anyway with what happened with the phones, the computers, and then you're going to add all this in. I mean, yeah, it's a great narrative. We're going to do this. It sounds good on paper until the reality is when you got a Himalaya-sized, you know, disused stack of solar panels that nobody can ascend. And, you know, maybe we will move to on-demand hydrogen, because if you put a linear generator motor in cars and you can retrofit that to existing engines, I mean, I think that's where it's going to be, is the hybrid retrofit of on-demand hydrogen on top of what we're doing to extend that fuel. Instead of using a liter of fuel to go, no, let's say, sorry, I was thinking Euro style, a gallon of fuel to go 35 miles, you know, you're putting on an on-demand hydrogen linear generator on there, and you're going to be getting what, 70 to 100 miles off that same gallon by, you know, recirculating and repurposing that fuel. That's a discharge going out that would have been exhaust, taking every single molecule of a burnable material out of it. And then when it comes to water vapor, still being able to separate those two and even take that 1 and 2, 3 cycles deeper into the whole mechanism of creating heat and power and explosive force to push those pistons. So, you know, there's a lot of things that are coming on stream right now. The reason I know a little bit about that, I've been talking with those guys up in Canada that are perfecting some of this, and they put it on dirt bikes already, and they're running dirt, you know, Enduro 250s, you need a lot of power to get some of these dirt bikes up hills. They're using this same on-demand hydrogen for dirt bikes and dirt bike racing. So if it's gotten to that level where they can shrink that down in and put on-demand hydrogen on dirt bikes, then what will it be for automobiles and trucks? We should have done this decades ago, because this is where the tech was decades plural ago. It's just finally coming into fruition because they're allowed to do it, quote unquote, now. So, you know, a lot of these things we put on the shelves that could have been solutions. And, you know, we could talk in circles about this for days, you know?
Yeah. And Dave, you know, and I have to run today, but I think what we should do is if you're going to be around, is maybe we can do a charterama, maybe Black Friday after Thanksgiving. If you're not busy, we can get in there and I can go through all the crypto charts, all the stock charts. We can show people, you know, where they can make some money in the market from our macro views. And if not, we'll pick a time and date that'll work for both of us, and I think people will like it.
I'm going to be chopping a bunch of firewood. Well, not, I mean, yeah, we are going to chop some, but we also have a log splitter. But Thanksgiving and the 2 days after that, we're going to do kind of like a barn building where I help you chop your firewood and do it on your property. You come by our property, and we're going to do 3 of us, and we're just going to rotate around at different pieces of property here in East Tennessee all the time while we're cooking and having an extended Thanksgiving at each person's farmhouses as we go around for those 3 days. So, you know, you might as well enjoy the abundance while you have it right now and be able to help and learn, because others that I'm going to already have pole barns they built themselves and already used the cedar trees and cut them into, like, you know, 8 or 12 foot lengths to be able to use those as the posts. So I'm trying to learn on trying to use what's on your property as a cut to be able to build something at the same time. So I'll be happy to do that. It's got to be probably a little 29th or 30th, but definitely 100% into it, because so much is going to change between now and then when the harvest really start to get tagged into the books here as to what it was. Prices are going to be up further. And I do hope, my hope is that this is a real discussion around the Thanksgiving dinner table of where we sit currently, the technologies we've had, and where the prices are rising, and why it does seem to be sort of a purposeful pinch. And I really hope that's part of the Thanksgiving conversation this year. And I wish every one of you a happy holiday season coming up.
Yeah, same. And I'll let you go. I'll give you a shout, Dave, and let's get together at the end of the month. I think it'll help people. It's always nice to know if you can put a plan together, takes the anxiety away, and at least, you know, you can be pushing forward versus somebody pushing on you. So anyway, I'll let you go, Dave. I'll catch you in a couple weeks.
All right. That's Bob Kudla. tradelikeagenius.com and use the promo code veterans. Talk to you next month. Thanks for joining us. Hope you got something out of the conversation, and always stay safe and prepared. Bye for now.